Hi everyone, my name is Sanjay. Welcome to the Engineer Wannabe YouTube channel. I hope you're well, and today we're going to be doing a long overdue review of this Grand Seiko SBGW285. It's a beautiful watch with a beautiful strap, but we're going to get into that. Before we do that, I just want to quickly mention that you are precious, you are infinitely valuable. A great price has been paid for you, and I mean that. I hope you understand that, and I hope you know that. But also, a quick wristwatch check. I am wearing the King Seiko SPB285. Very similar reference numbers, which is why I kind of stuttered there. I tend to stutter anyway. But anyway, let's flip the camera and take a look at this watch. Okay, so here it is. This is the beautiful Grand Seiko SBGW285. This is a manually wound mechanical watch. Really gone over the top with the green here. The color of 2020, 2021 maybe. And you know what? It works. It looks really good. But let's get into the dimensions here. This watch is 37 millimeters in diameter. It is 12 millimeters thick, which is kind of high for a manually wound watch, but we'll talk about that. The lug width is 19 millimeters here. The lug to lug is 44. You can see those drilled lugs there, making strap changes super easy. And of course, let's talk about the weight here. The weight of the watch head alone, so no strap, is 52 grams. With the strap weighs 10 grams, so it's a 62 gram watch with the strap put on this watch, including this pin buckle. So nice set of dimensions, except possibly that thickness. Now, one thing about Grand Seiko, which I'm sure you've heard if you've been in this, if you've followed this channel or many other Grand Seiko style channels, Grand Seiko fan channels I should say, is that it does not wear like a 12 millimeter watch. And there is a popular watch called the SBGM221, very thick on paper, but wears very thin. This wears similarly thin. It even has the same case style. So this, I would say, wears like an 11 millimeter, maybe 10 and a half. And of course, you have that boxed sapphire crystal. I feel like I'm making excuses here. I am not. The thickness is high, but it is a very comfortable watch to wear. One thing I mentioned, I think in the unboxing, possibly in a different watch, because I've owned this variation of watch a couple of times with the SBGW231 as well. It's what this is based on. That's the cream dial version of this identical watch. Is that this feels kind of like a pebble. Everything is rounded off beautifully. And it just feels nice to hold in your hands, which is not something you do with a watch, but this just feels very smooth and rounded, and it feels just like a pebble, and it's very pleasant to hold, very pleasant to wear, and I do enjoy that about this watch. Let's talk a bit about this dial here. You can see that zoom in a bit actually. You can see that this logo here is applied. It's very shallow or very thin applied logo though. I wish it was a little thicker, and there is enough room. There's plenty of room to have a thicker logo, as you can see. So it would have been nice if it was thicker, a bit more play with the light if it was, but that said, it's still a beautiful logo. The Grand Seiko script there is printed. You've got these Dauphine hands, which are bent in the middle. They don't have polished facets at the end there though. One thing you might notice is that these hands tend to disappear. Although in real life, in day-to-day life, I have not had an issue with these hands disappearing. Like you might think that this might be an issue right now. It's actually still very legible. It's not ideal, but it is legible. So I haven't felt like I'm missing out. And there are a few watches where if the legibility is an issue, I tend to move on from them pretty quickly. I haven't found that legibility is an issue here, although on camera it tends to seem that way, especially right now. But yeah, for me, hasn't been an issue, especially because of that crease down the middle of the bend. Now, one thing I should mention, a lot of people talk about lume and how Grand Seikos don't need lume because of the multifaceted hands and the multifaceted markers. It's true about the markers. They will catch light and reflect them back to your eyes, but the hands do not do that in this watch. So when it's dark, it is kind of useless. It's not like other Grand Seikos where you still can kind of tell the time, even if it's almost pitch black. Here, you're kind of out of luck. You just got to use a flashlight or something like that. Let's take a look at this beautiful strap here. This is a crocodile strap. It is a glossy finish. Now, this might look like it's been well worn. I actually have only worn this a handful of times. You can count on one hand, maybe even, how many times I've worn this. So this is, it wears quickly. You can see how pristine the other side is, but the buckle does a number on this strap here. You can see all the cracks and crevices here. But that said, I don't believe that this will be not a durable strap. I don't think this will be a strap that fails very quickly. It's just going to show this wear very, very quickly and then continue that way for some time. So I don't have any concerns about the strap's longevity. You should be aware that it's not going to look this beautiful and perfect for many days even. So probably within a couple of days it's going to look like this, which is a bit of a shame. But what a strap this is. This is so, it's probably the most beautiful strap I've seen from Grand Seiko. It's a perfect color of green. The finishing is beautiful. It's the strap is not just cut on the sides. It's been round folded over. A lot of straps, they have sheared cut sides, but this is not the case there. It's beautifully done. This backing here is calf and it's been glued on, which is okay, I suppose. It is going for that minimalistic look with no stitching, so you can't really say much about it. I think it is beautiful. I think the stitching would have ruined this look. So it is a glued strap. Now, one downside is the fact that there's no deployant. That's kind of expected in this price point for Grand Seiko. The SBGM221 has a deployant, but the SBGW231 does not. So the GMT, which is the SBGM221, that one has a deployant. This is a pin buckle. It's a very good pin buckle. It's very beautiful. Deep embossing here with the, not a bead blasting, but something reminiscent of bead blasting with relief polishing. It's a nice pin buckle. One thing I did notice is that the strap seems to be a little longer than what's normal for Grand Seiko, especially for a smaller watch like this. I do tend to be using it right at the end here. My wrist is 6 1/4 inches. Let me put it on my wrist and show it to you guys. So my wrist is, for the most part, most times of the year, 6 1/4 inches. 16 centimeters, and I tend to be wearing this right at the end here. So yeah, I could probably go tighter here because this is kind of loose, but you get the idea. Looks good on my wrist to me. I enjoy the way it looks. One thing I don't like is because this strap is longer than previous iterations of Grand Seiko straps, I now have to deal with this thumbnail sticking out, which is not ideal, but it's not a big deal at the same time. I do have a deployant because I'm a Grand Seiko nut. From one of my other Grand Seiko watches, and it does wear really well once you put this on a deployant. I will be sure to run some B-roll footage while I'm talking right now of that. So, beautifully wearing watch. I really love the way this looks. Now I am kind of in ideal lighting conditions to show off this green dial. the dial does not appear green for 90% of the day. So if you're wearing this day to day, this is not going to appear green. It's going to look black. And if you're putting it on a green strap, I tend to really like green on green for this watch. If you put it on a green strap, it is going to make the dial look a bit greener, but for the most part, it's going to look like a black watch with a beautiful surprise when you go out in the sun. You'll get a beautiful green pop. So the dial is textured. I don't believe I mentioned that before. It's got this paper like texture here, like a rough paper, almost like a crosshatch at the same time as well. It's beautiful to look at, especially under a loop. I do recommend you do that. I have not found any imperfections under this dial, but at the same time I don't go microscopic. I just enjoy it with a loop every once in a while, and to my enjoyment, I have not experienced any imperfections under this dial. No dust, no unpolished surfaces, no issues of any sort. Anything that you might see here is probably just lint, and yeah, now I'd probably put a fingerprint on there somewhere. But it's a beautifully finished watch, which is what you're paying for, which is well, what you get with Grand Seiko. Now this movement here is a 9S64, adequately finished, beautiful to look at for a few times, but there's nothing nothing to gawk over days and days and days. You'd take a look at this a few times while you're winding it, and then probably just move on. You may even forget about it, but it's a nice watch, or a nice movement, nicely decorated movement. Very nice text. I love the font, as always with Grand Seiko, except there are there are exceptions, I should say, with Grand Seiko's font choices. But anyway, the movement here is a 72-hour movement, power reserve movement, manually wound. Hacking seconds, beat rate is 8 ticks per second, and the usual movement. What else can I say about it? It's mechanical, and yeah, 3-day power reserve. So one thing I should also mention is water resistance. This is a splash resistant watch, or 30 meters water resistant, which is considered to be splash resistant. Now I've been recently pushing the envelope with water resistance, having a bit of fun. Maybe you'll catch a short that I might have done where I stuck this watch under the tap. I think I would consider that splash resistant. I've been wearing this to work, which has a lot of water spraying around. I have not had any issues with that. As you can see, one nice thing about having a beautiful display case back here is you get to see if there's any water under there. So yeah, all seems to be well. I wouldn't go swimming with it, but yeah, this whole water resistance thing for some brands, I think is a bit blown out of proportion. But you know, Grand Seiko says it's splash resistant. I believe them, and I'm willing to let it get splashed. So I've been able to enjoy this watch more than normal because of that. The case, of course, I should have talked about this earlier, but it is fully polished. There's not much to say about it. I mentioned it was rounded and very much like a pebble. You can see the dial is curved or domed as well, and of course the seconds hand is bent, the minute hand is bent as well, and it's a very very beautiful, pleasant thing to behold. So that's about it, really. I am really enjoying my ownership time with this watch. I hope this video has been useful to you. If you have any questions about this watch, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help out. Yeah, guys, I just want to mention again that you are infinitely valuable. I appreciate you, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you may be. But yeah, take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.